Well, Father David Ross is in with us today. We're going to talk about journaling and how it's kind of become a little bit more of a social club, just not something individualized. So thanks for coming today.
Right. It's not an either or, it's a both and, I've observed. And there's a long history to this whole idea of journaling. We used to call it keeping a diary, if you remember that.
Exactly.
And of course,
with a key.
The ladies would keep it and hide it under their bed, and God help you if your brother found it or something like that, you know. So people were inclined to do that. But journaling is something far beyond that. Journaling in its essence is keeping a journal, keeping an opportunity, a book of reflections on your personal life, your personal thoughts, your feelings, your experiences in a private space. And the function of it, the purpose of it, is to advance some self-awareness and to process your emotions. If you can't afford the physician, I mean the therapist, this may be a good opportunity to start, you know. I've observed in my own life that it's beneficial. We used to call it, when I was younger in school, an examination of consciousness, just to see how aware you were of your day. And oftentimes we find that the day is so full of activity, we don't have the opportunity to process this. So this is what journaling does. You know, there's some great people who did this, like Ronald Reagan did journaling, Mark Twain, Rockefeller did. We found this with George Patton. All these people of different varieties and different backgrounds found this as an opportunity to do nothing but sit down and process your day. So it's not involving too much. You have to have some people do it privately. Some people do it as a group. And they share their ideas with the group. It's more like a club than anything else these days. But initially, and in its essence, it was a private opportunity, and you can use whatever medium you want. Some people use a book, some people use an iPad or something like that. But simply to sit down and process it. And it's got to be something of a regular basis. Some people don't do it every day.
Right.
I certainly don't do it every day. But what you have the opportunity to process what your experiences have been during the day, because oftentimes we just fly through them and we put our head on the pillow, and trying to wind down, we're still thinking about the rest of the day.
Yeah, really, you're still thinking about it. Well, this article from the Wall Street Journal, they talk more about it's become kind of social and like a club. So I guess maybe those are therapy sessions too, so to speak. I mean, they get together and they're like, yeah, you know, I've been journaling about this happening or that happening. And, you know, and some of this was sparked by pandemic, some of them say, and things like that.
That's right. And people aren't usually in these groups of journaling, they're not judgmental at all. I mean, you don't write down something and then the other person says, you what? You know?
Exactly, yeah.
You know, they don't do any of that stuff, but they're very respectful of each other's emotions and their feelings. And they discover that there's sort of a universality to the same things. You know, having gone through the pandemic, what you experienced during that time, or today, depending upon where you live, what you've been experiencing with that other group of people.
Right, yeah, like loss of a loved one, when they're talking about journaling about that, you know, people can chime in and, you know, help out with that kind of thing.
Well, they do, and what it is basically it's a listening ear when you do it as a group. Individually, you process it when you're at home in your private space, but when you're with a group, it's a listening ear. And we don't oftentimes have people who are willing just to sit there and say nothing. I notice when I do counseling sessions, you know, if you keep them to an hour, the first 55 minutes, you just sit there and go like this, oh, yeah. And then they get up and say, oh, thank you for listening, you know, and stuff like that. And then, but I'm not paid the $65 an hour that my brother may be paid or something like that.
Well, and you say that, I mean, journaling is kind of like it's listening, you know, you're writing it out in you know, the pages are listening,
and you're reflecting.
I guess, you know,
you're reflecting and not reacting.
Right.
That's what I like about the whole idea of journaling. And so I just invite anybody to even consider it. And if you don't have a notebook, you don't have an iPad, just write down a piece of paper.
Right, yeah.
You know, and you don't have to keep it in a lock and key either, like the girls did when you were a kid.
I noticed some of them fancy up the pages and stuff and draw on them, and
they
so
may well
do whatever you want while you're journaling.
They will do that, yes.
Thanks for coming, Father.
Thank you.
All right, don't go away. New Edition continues in a moment.